any laws that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, any constitutions denying a women's suffrage violate alike of the spirit and letter of the federal Constitution.
Minor reasons that women are actually enfranchised by the 14th Amendment. Picking up this strategy, women head to the polls to vote, breaking state laws that deny them that right. In the 1872 presidential election, Susan B. Anthony proudly casts her vote for Ulysses Grant and is promptly arrested and put on trial.
Friends and fellow citizens, I stand before you tonight under indictment for the alleged crime of having voted at the last presidential election without having a lawful right to vote. It shall be my work this evening to prove to you that in thus voting, I not only committed no crime, but instead simply exercised my citizens' rights, guaranteed to me and all United States citizens by the national Constitution beyond the power of any state to deny. The preamble of the federal Constitution says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." It was we, the people, not we, the white male citizens, nor yet we, the male citizens, but we, the whole people, who formed the Union. And we formed it not to give the blessings of liberty, but to secure them, not to the half of ourselves and the half of our posterity, but to the whole people, women as well as men. And it is a downright mockery to talk to women of their enjoyment of the blessings of liberty while they are denied the use of the only means of securing them provided by this democratic Republican government, the ballot. For any state to make sex a qualification that must ever result in the disfranchisement of one entire half of the people is to pass a bill of attainder or an ex post facto law, and is therefore a violation of the supreme law of the land. By it, the blessings of liberty are forever withheld from women and their female posterity. To them, this government has no just powers derived from the consent of the government. To them, this government is not a democracy. It is not a republic. It is an odious aristocracy, a hateful oligarchy of sex, the most hateful aristocracy ever established on the face of the globe. An oligarchy of wealth, where the rich govern the poor, an oligarchy of learning, where the educated govern the ignorant, even an oligarchy of race, where the Saxon rules the African, might be endured. But this oligarchy of sex, which makes father, brothers, husbands, sons the oligarchs over the mothers and sisters, the wife and daughters of every household, which ordains all men sovereigns, all women subjects, carries dissension, discord, and rebellion into every home of the nation. Webster, Worcester, and Bouvier all defined a citizen to be a person in the United States entitled to vote and hold office. The only question left to be settled now is, are women persons? And I hardly believe any of our opponents will have the hardihood to say they are not. Being persons, then, women are citizens, and no state has a right to make any law or to enforce any old law that shall abridge their privileges or immunities. Hence, every discrimination against women in the constitutions and laws of the several states is today null and void, precisely as is every one against Negroes.
Miss Anthony is found guilty and fined $100, which she refuses to pay.
In all the papers they say country is preparing to celebrate 100 proud years of existing as a republic based on the consent of the governed. Matilda Jocelyn Gage, current president of the NWSA, pens a protest to present at the official July 4th celebration taking place in Philadelphia in the shadow of the Great Liberty Bell. They respectfully ask for permission to take part in the centennial celebration, but permission is denied. The suffragists are determined to seize the moment.
Matilda Gage, Susan B. Anthony, and 3 other officers of the NWSA, with that heroic spirit which has ever animated lovers of liberty and resistance to tyranny, were determined to present the Declaration that day. That historic 4th of July dawned at last, one of the most oppressive days of that terribly heated season. The women make their way through the crowds under the broiling sun to Independence Square. They make their way down the aisle. The foreign guests, the military and civil officers courteously make way, and as Miss Anthony presents the Declaration, the speaker's face pales. The ladies turn, scattering the printed copies as they walk down the platform. General Hawley, defied and beaten in his audacious denial to the women, shouts,
Order! Order! Order!
The women make their way to the historic ground of Independence Hall where the Declaration is read.
While the nation is buoyant with patriotism and all hearts are attuned to praise, it is with sorrow we come to strike the one discordant note on this 100th anniversary of our country's birth.
When subjects of kings, emperors, and czars from the old world join in our national jubilee, shall the women of the Republic refuse to lay their hands with benedictions on the nation's head? Surveying America's exposition and surpassing in magnificence those of London, Paris, and Vienna, shall we not rejoice in the success of the youngest rival among the nations of the earth?
Yes. May not our hearts, in unison with all, swell with pride at our great achievements as a people, our free speech, free press, free schools, free church, and the rapid progress we have made in material wealth, trade, commerce, and the inventive arts.
And we do rejoice in the success thus far of our experiment of self-government. Our faith is firm and unwavering in the broad principles of human rights proclaimed in 1776, not only as abstract truths, but as the cornerstones of a republic.
Yet we cannot forget, even in this glad hour, that while all men of every race, every clime, and condition have been invested with the full rights of citizenship under our hospitable flag, all women still suffer the degradation of disfranchisement.
And now, at the close of 100 years, as the hour hand of the great clock that marks the centuries points to 1876, we declare our faith in the principles of self-government, our full equality with man in natural rights. That woman was made first for her own happiness, with the absolute right to herself, to all the opportunities and advantages life affords her for her complete development. And we deny that dogma of the centuries, incorporated in the codes of all countries. That woman was made for man, her best interests in all cases to be sacrificed to his will.
We ask of our rulers at this hour no special favors, no special privileges, no special legislation. We ask justice. We ask equality. We ask that all the civil and political rights that belong to citizens of the United States be guaranteed to us and our daughters forever.
Sound of weary voices rise. January 1878, Aaron A. Sargent, the United States Senator from California, whose wife Ellen is a friend of Susan B. Anthony, first introduces the 29 words that would later become the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, allowing women the right to vote. The bill is defeated. A bill calling for the amendment would be introduced unsuccessfully each year for the next 40 years.
In 1884, the Equal Rights Party, begun in 1872 by Victoria Woodhull, nominates attorney Belva Lockwood for United States President. Although not endorsed by the NWSA, the impressive feminist holds lectures across the country which brings an audience of thousands to hear her speak and warrants daily mention of her campaign in the press.
My campaign fund was my lecture receipts, and I more than covered expenses. I had more fun and less worry than any of the other candidates and have accomplished a great deal. Reforms are slow, but they never go backwards. Their originators may die, but the reform will live to bless millions yet unborn.
Lockwood receives 4,149 votes.
When the Statue of Liberty is unveiled in New York Harbor in October 1886, the New York Women's Suffrage Association protests
that the proposition of our French friends to erect a Statue of Liberty on Bedloe's Island in New York Harbor points afresh to the cruelty of women's present position, since it is proposed to represent freedom as a majestic female form in a state where not one woman is free.
Undertake a controversial reunification in 1890. Newspaper editor L. Frank Baum, who will go on to write The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, reports on the conflict.
The two great factions of the National Women's Suffrage Association are openly arrayed against each other in Washington this week. At their heads are the two leaders who together were mainly instrumental in forming the organization 21 years ago, who have worked shoulder to shoulder as collaborators in the cause, who penned together that remarkable history of women's suffrage which stands today the best exponent of their claims for a suffrage amendment, Matilda Jocelyn Gage and Susan B. Anthony.
The newly unified organization is called the NAWSA, the National American Woman Suffrage Association.
Resolve!
Resolve! 1890, Wyoming is the first state to recognize women's suffrage.
By the 1890s, the southern states are taking the vote away from African American men, enforcing segregation through Jim Crow laws, and murdering African American men, often by public lynching. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, organizer, poet, and lecturer, speaks at the 1891 National Council of Women.
Outside of America, I know of no other civilized country, Catholic, Protestant, or even Mohammedan, where men are still lynched, murdered, and even burned for real or supposed crimes. A government which has power to tax a man in peace and draft him in war should have power to defend his life in the hour of peril. Whether it was wise or unwise, the government has exchanged the fetters on his wrist for the ballot in his right hand, and men cannot vitiate this vote by fraud or intimidate the voter by violence without being untrue to the genius and the spirit of our government. It is said the Negro is ignorant. But why is he ignorant? It comes with ill grace from a man who has put out my eyes to make a parade of my blindness. To reproach me for my poverty when he has wronged me of my money. If the Negro is ignorant, he has lived under the shadow of an institution which, at least in part of the country, made it a crime to teach him to read the name of the ever-blessed Christ. If he is poor, what has become of the money he has been earning for the last 250 years? Instead of taking the ballot from his hands, teach him how to use it and to add his quota to the progress, the strength, and durability of the nation.
Resolve!
Resolve! 1893, Colorado becomes the second state to recognize women's right to vote. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who helped found the NWSA at that fateful meeting in Seneca Falls in 1848, celebrates her 80th birthday on November 12, 1895, 47 years after that meeting.
When the church obeys the command, honor thy mother, and the state heeds the declaration, equal rights to all, when the two powers join hands to exalt the mother of the race, who has gone to the very gates of death to give every man life and immortality, then we shall see the dawn of a new day in women's emancipation, when she awakes to the beauty of science, philosophy, true religion, and pure government. Then will the first notes of harmony be touched. Then will the great organ of humanity be played on all its keys, with every strop rightly adjusted and with louder, loftier strains. The march of civilization will be immeasurably quickened.
In the direction of equality.
Resolve!
Resolve! 1896, Utah and Idaho recognize women's right to vote.
The NAWSA is a well-organized machine that continues to deliver its well-honed, consistent message. Members fan out to national and state conventions, as well as county fairs, granges, educational and religious societies, continuing to gain endorsements. Although suffering from a severe cold, Susan B. Anthony attends the 1906 National Convention.
On account of her extreme weakness, it was not expected that Miss Anthony would speak, but at the close of the evening, she seemed to feel that she must say one last word. And rising with a tender spiritual expression on her dear face, she stood beside Miss Shaw and explained in a few touching words how the great work of the National Association had been placed in her charge. Turning to the other national officers on the stage, she reached out her hand to them and expressed her appreciation of their loyal support. And then realizing that her strength was almost gone, she said,
There have been others, also just as true and devoted to the cause. I wish I could name everyone. But with such women consecrating their lives.
Here she paused for an instant and seemed to be gazing into the future. Then dropping her arms to her side, she finished her sentence.
Failure is impossible.
These were the last words Miss Anthony ever spoke in public, and from that moment they became the watchword of those who accepted as their trust the work she laid down. 1 month later to the day, she was laid to rest with her loved ones.
Fearing that women would outlaw gambling and prostitution if they were given the right to vote, the liquor and gambling industry pours money into campaigns to stop women from achieving the vote. Oh, my goodness! It's disgraceful.
If you have beauty, charm, refinement, tact, if you can prove that, should I set you free, you would not contemplate the smallest act that might annoy or interfere with me. If you show that women will abide by the best standards of their womanhood, and I must be the person to decide what in a woman is the highest good. If you display efficiency supreme in philanthropic work devoid of pay, if you can show a clearly thought out scheme for bringing the millennium in a day, why then, dear lady, at some time remote, I might consider giving you the vote.
1910, Washington State recognizes women's right to vote.
In California, Long Beach plays a special role in women's suffrage. On May 17, 1911, hundreds of female delegates gathered in the city of Long Beach at the Hotel Virginia for the 10th annual convention of the California Federation of Women's Clubs.